Hello and welcome to Talk Football, the Madrid-based podcast where every week we take an in-depth look at the issues surrounding Spanish football. My name is Tommy Hay and I'm joined by my friend and colleague Kieran Quayle, who is the editor of Get Spanish Football News Online. How are you doing, Kieran?
Very good, Tommy. How are you keeping?
Not bad. It's really terrible weather here, but we're getting on with it, and it makes it easier to be stuck in the house, which is the way things are going just now. So, how are you where you are?
Yeah, it's actually very nice here in Dundalk in Ireland. Nice sunny day, so can't complain.
It's interesting. It's sunny in Dundalk and it's raining in Valencia, where I am at the moment. So it's pretty crazy.
It's a rare one.
Yeah,
we're living in rare times, though.
I know, that's it. Well, it goes without saying, obviously, that football in Spain hasn't really been the priority. It's been pretty terrible here. 19,000 people. Well, when we recorded this, 19,000 people have died as a result of coronavirus, and it's just the entire last month has just been spent thinking about other things, just making sure that everybody's okay. We've been in lockdown more or less since I think it was the 17th of April it all started here, more or less. So it's
March,
of March, sorry, 17th of March. So that's been about a month that we've been in the house. That's the current situation here. They're going to relax it starting on the 26th of April. That's the plan. Some non-essential workers have already gone back to work, construction workers and some delivery services and stuff like that. But for the majority of the population, it's the same as it was 2 weeks ago. You're in the house, can't go out unless it's absolutely necessary. I go out once a week to go to Mercadona supermarket. That's the only time I leave the house. So, although the situation's improving, there's every possibility that this could continue. And that we could be isolated for the next while. I don't know what it's like in Ireland. It's not as extreme in Ireland, I believe.
No, it's not as extreme here. We have a few hundred deaths, unfortunately, but the numbers aren't as high as in Spain, and we're not as restricted either. We're allowed to go for a walk or for some exercise once we stay within 2 kilometre zone. So it hasn't been as bad here, fortunately, but people are still behaving, like you see people out and about, they're going out for their essential services, their food and different essential needs. Maybe visiting my grandmother, for example, isn't a good idea. It's something I'd like to do, but she lives outside that 2 kilometre zone from where I'm currently based, so I can't visit her. So there's still parts of your life affected, but it's not as restricted.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's what's going to happen here when they do relax it a little bit. I think they'll start allowing us to go out and go for a run or just walk, for the sake of walking, just get a bit of exercise once a day. But, it's really, really extreme here. The ex-president, Mariano Rajoy, was in the news yesterday. I don't know if you saw this.
No.
He was caught walking. He was out, he left his house and he went for a wee walk, and he wasn't going to the supermarket or anything. He was just out for a walk. So
just went for a wander.
Yeah. So one rule for the rest of the population, and one rule for
was
him.
Was Rajoy? Was he in Madrid or was he up in Galicia, where he's from?
I think he was up in Galicia. Yeah, he's in a place that's. He moved back there. He was actually like a notary before,
right?
Like registered property kind of thing, and he's just gone back to his normal life since he stopped being prime minister. So, but he's he got in a bit of trouble yesterday. But hopefully in the next 10 days or so, it'll start to loosen up a little bit, and we can not completely go back to normal, but get a sense of being able to leave the house a little bit, because it's pretty claustrophobic and stuff at the moment.
I can imagine.
Yeah, totally. I mean, obviously, we've as I said, it goes without saying, we've not been thinking about football as much in the last month, because it just we just haven't really had time to do it. But now that we are talking about a return to some kind of normality, obviously, from our point of view, it throws up a lot of questions about when and if La Liga and Spanish football in general is going to return to Spain anytime soon. So let's start the podcast here. What do we know about if and when we'll be seeing some football again in Spain.
Yeah, so La Liga president Javier Tebas has mentioned a couple of dates. The 28th of May, the 6th of June and the 28th of June were the three proposed dates that he's given. And since then, the government has basically said that we're going to decide ourselves. So when there's no risk or when we can return to action, maybe in isolation. But until then, it's basically up to the government to decide. So La Liga can offer these dates. They're trying to get the games going as soon as possible to finish the season. There's still 11 game weeks left, but nobody really knows. And the only thing that we do know so far is that it's going to be a government decision, regardless of when Tebas wants this league to resume.
Yeah, all Tebas can really do at the moment is make recommendations, so to speak, and that's why he's given three separate dates. Interesting that you chose the 6th of June for it, and you were saying they're calling it T-Day because D-Day,
yeah,
obviously. So yeah, he's kept various options open. As you go down the leagues, I thought it was interesting last night. Rubiales, the head of the federation, he had a meeting with the National Sports Council to discuss whether or not they should actually just cancel the leagues completely, starting from the Segunda B, which is like League One, and below for Segunda B, Tercera, women's football, futsal, and things like that. They went into that meeting discussing the possible cancellation of it. They've now come out with a plan which would see a restructuring of the lower leagues, and they're calling it Ascenso Express. Ascenso is promotion, and it's called that because this year, according to this plan, there will be no relegations, there'll just be promotions. And promotions will be decided through a playoff system as teams compete against each other in one-legged ties at neutral venues. Very imaginative. I don't know what your initial reaction is to that idea.
Yeah, it's a strange one, but you've got your teams getting promotion, so there's still advantages to this potential system as well. And then you've got no teams getting relegated. So on the other hand, teams can't be fearful of losing out on big money. But yeah, it's another new idea, and I suppose the fact that there's no football at the moment, the Spanish FA, the Spanish Football Federation, La Liga, and the Players Union, they're all trying their best to improve the current situation and come up with new ideas for what could potentially happen. But nobody really knows. It seems every week we have a new idea, but we have to think of the greater good and safety of the people, safety of the fans. I know that the players have agreed to, if there was a summer system in place to finalise the league, that they have agreed to at least 72 hours between matches. Uh-huh. So that would require maybe 3 matches a week in order to get it done over June and July, potentially with the European action in August. Yeah, but going back to your Segunda B and Tercera women's football and futsal. Yeah, I suppose why not? In order to get these leagues finished and a new system in place. Yeah, if they see the potential benefits, yeah, why not?
Yeah, there certainly seems to be a bit more imagination about what's going on in Spain compared to other countries. This week in Scottish football, there's been a huge debate about whether what the measures they're taking are the correct ones. Clubs like Hearts, who are obviously a very big team, they're currently sitting bottom of the Scottish Premier League, and it looks like they're going to be relegated because of their current position. Partick Thistle, in the Championship, look like they're going down to League One as a consequence of this, and it's it matters a lot financially for these teams. What happens, and there's been not much imagination, in terms of there were some people talking about possibly expanding that league to a 14-team league, the Scottish Premier League. You would have the same situation. You would have 2 teams promoted from the Championship, which would be fair, and nobody would go down and take that financial hit. I don't think that's on the table in Scotland anymore. So I'm happy to see that in Spain they've got this idea going on. It's not going to, if it does work, I don't think it's going to have any negative impact on teams. One team that's going to be really happy about this is San Sebastián de los Reyes. They're currently rock bottom of Group 1 of the Segunda Segunda B, and they'll be very happy because they're like 9 points adrift from they're 9 points behind Getafe B, so they really get no hope of coming out of that situation.
So it gives the likes of them a chance. Yeah,
Yeah, well, they would basically save
One
their
more.
season. Yep, it would save their season if they did that. So we'll see what's happening. But as you say, it's a situation that changes every day. There's constant evolution of it. So,
Yeah.
okay, Barca have been in the news as always for a couple of reasons this time. Where do you begin with this? Well, I suppose you could probably start with the headlines at the end of last week and the beginning of this week that have been dominated by this mass resignation of board members. What do we know about this?
Yeah, so 6 board members resigned last Thursday, blaming the mismanagement of President Josep Maria Bartomeu. And basically, this has been going on for a couple of years, and it's just coming to a head now. The fact that there's no football, it's all coming out. It kind of boiled over last week with the ERTE, and this is basically a government scheme that the Spanish government scheme have offered to clubs so you can enforce pay cuts. Mm-hmm. So this is just one factor. Like, I mean, there's where do you start with Barcelona? Like, this has maybe been going on for over a decade now with overspending and mismanagement between a few different presidents, not just Bartomeu.
Yeah, he's the kind of end of it. But I think what we're seeing here is that possibly because the elections are on, or the elections are coming up, that you see a lot more politics going on and some downright dirty tricks in the backs. We've heard this Barçagate issue, which is just an incredible story, which is somebody at Barcelona has been paying large sums of money, over €100,000, to, I don't know what you would call these people, like social media kind of
third party social media group. Yeah,
social media groups. It looks like there's 6 of them now that have been given money for this, basically to troll people online, to criticize people online, in the Barca hierarchy and favour certain candidates and things like that. 6 companies have been involved in this and paid quite a lot of money, to disparage, criticise certain figures at the club, and that's come to light. And this was mentioned in the resignation letter of the 6 board members, that this Barçagate thing was a big reason for their choice to resign.
Yeah, those messages were basically slating the likes of Messi and Piqué and their lives as well. So that didn't help the current situation that the board have with the players. They've totally lost trust, respect there anymore. Messi seems to be delivering all his latest bombs and hits via his own Instagram account. Last week he came out and he said that I won't be joining Inter Milan. That's fake news. And I haven't paid for Ronaldinho's bail in the Paraguay prison. That's also fake news. The week prior to that, he was also on Instagram and he was talking about basically during the pay cut phase, the club came out and said that players have basically not really wanted to take any cuts. And then a few days later, Messi came out and said, no, it was always our intention to take pay cuts. We're in a crisis, we're in an emergency situation, and obviously we're going to look after the staff here at the club. So they had different ideas. It didn't look good, and Messi basically replied saying, I'm surprised with some of the behaviour of the board and some of the criticism that we've had to put up with, even though we've been acting properly all the time. So yeah, this has been bubbling for a while now, and it looks like Messi's basically running the club. But a lot of the debt comes from Messi. Messi earns €80 million a year. He's been able to demand salaries. He's been basically getting new contract offers every 6 months. He could argue that he's the best player of all time and that he deserves that, but he's on €80 million a year, and this is just one minor part of the mismanagement that's going on at the club. And a couple of players have been leveraging Pep Guardiola at Man City to get better deals. For example, in 2016, Sergio Busquets did the same. He was saying, well, listen, I can go to Manchester City, they're offering me such and such. And this led to Busquets getting a much improved deal, up to €13 million a year. So I know for a fact that Andy Mitten, who's a journalist with The Athletic, he covers Manchester United, he did an interview with Messi a few years ago. And after the interview, Messi said to Andy Mitten, what's the situation at Man United. And he said, well, why don't you ask your mate Sergio Aguero? And he's basically trying to ask Andy Mitten if he knew any insight, if he knew what was going on in terms of wages and what the players were getting. And Mitten wasn't going to tell him anything, number one, for being a United fan, but number two, he wouldn't feel right discussing that with the best player in the world at the time. So it's Marcy is seen to be money hungry, but I mean he's acting properly at the moment. He's paying the kit man's wage, he's paying the canteen staff's wage, so it's only fair. You're earning €80 million a year, and these people are taking cuts, temporary cuts. They're earning very, very small salaries in comparison to these players, so I think it's only right that they've been covered.
Absolutely, but this idea that players don't want to take pay cuts, that was at the beginning of this coronavirus crisis. That was not just in Spain or just at Barca; it was all across the world. You get Hancock, the conservative politician, who was coming out and having a go at footballers in England, saying that they should pay up and stuff like that. And lo and behold, they have. They've come out, they've organised, and they are paying up. They're taking the pay cuts and they're directing towards good causes and things like that. It was very trendy at the beginning when all this started to be having a go at footballers. I personally think it was unwarranted and unfair. Footballers do a lot of good work in community. They do earn massive wages. Especially you're saying Messi, he earns 80 million a year. It's true. But a lot of them do really good stuff with that money. So I thought that was a bit unfair. One thing I was going to say to you there, it's interesting that because a few months ago when the Abidal interview thing broke, we were having this debate about how much power Messi did have at the club, and whether Abidal was correct and the board were correct and at least hinting that, suggesting it, and members of the press were correct in hinting that he does have too much power. Do you now subscribe to that view? Has it become apparent over the last couple of months that Messi does kind of run the club to a large extent?
Yeah, it looks like that from the outside. Like, you never see players attacking a board publicly. So the fact that it's come to this now, it just shows that the board haven't been getting up to any good. Messi said a few years ago that Barcelona is the best club in the world and it deserves the best directors, and it clearly doesn't have that. Like, it's not Messi's fault he gets €80 million. He's been demanding money, but the board have been splashing it out. Former player Gerard Lopez, he played with Barcelona maybe a decade ago. He played for Valencia as well. He said in Spanish radio during the week, he said about Barcelona and Neymar in particular, he said, you spent more than €400 million trying to replace a player that you want to sign again.
Yeah.
So this is just one example of like awful activity in the transfer market and ridiculous sums of money being handed out. They had to borrow 120 million to get the Griezmann deal across the line. They paid over 100 million for Ousmane Dembele. Now, in fairness, he's been injured all the time. That's not their fault. But I can see why Messi's coming out now, because himself and Piqué, Alba, Busquets, all the senior players, they must be thinking. They know what went on behind the scenes, and they must be thinking, well, here, the more we can do publicly to kind of shame these guys, the quicker we can get new board members in, more effective board members, and they're probably happy that Bartomeu's mandate is up next year as well.
Mm-hmm. Given the fact that they did go to such lengths to make sure Griezmann came to the club, they really, as you say, they pulled out every stop to guarantee that he was signed for Barca over, and it was a process over a few years. Long, tedious, difficult, controversial, and all the rest of it. Why are we now in a situation where we're actually talking about Griezmann potentially leaving the club and going to Inter or PSG? He's been linked with an exit to both of those teams.
Yeah, I think it's because in the 2017-2018 season, Barca's salaries rose from €390 million to €525 million. So half a billion for the salaries alone in the season, and basically 70% of the club's budget is going on the players' wages. So there's not going to be much money there to bring in new players. The likes of Lautaro Martinez from Inter, they're being linked with. They've been linked with a move for Lautaro Martinez from Inter, and also Neymar as well. So it's a case of maybe a swap deal being involved, getting these players in because the money isn't there. Their salaries are 70% of the budget. So the fact that they've had to go on this government scheme to reduce staff, let staff go, and basically you can see from that the finances aren't in a healthy position. So if they do want to bring in players, top players who cost over €100 million, you're going to be talking maybe a swap deal for the likes of Ivan Rakitic or Arturo Vidal. So I don't think, like, Griezmann's only had one season, and he's been not even one season. The season's been cut short for him. So I don't think he's had a fair go really at the Camp Nou. So time will tell, but I don't think they've got the finances to go and get that €100 million to bring these players in. So it looks like they'll be involved in swap deals. But then Rakitic said in an exclusive interview with Catalan sports paper Mundo Deportivo on Monday that he'll decide his own future. So it's possible that he could go back to Sevilla. He said that Monchi has his phone number, and a few different comments basically suggesting that might be where he will go back to. His wife is from Sevilla as well, so that could be his option instead of Serie A. But Rakitic at 32, he's still a valuable member of the squad, and he'll still be an asset for them. So maybe 40-50 million, and his contract expires in 2021. So this could be the time to get rid of him. They might want to cash him in now instead of waiting until next year and he gets released on a free. So they'll be looking to balance the books. Bartomeu only has one year left on his contract as president, so he'll be trying to leave with the books balanced.
Yeah, I think Rakitic that would definitely be a way to at least sort of get a balance back, because he's not been enjoying it himself in the last year or two. It's weird that the fans seem to have sort of turned on him a little bit as well. It seems like the fans don't particularly rate him, and I just don't think he's having a particularly good time, and I don't think he's been very happy with his treatment regarding a potential transfer, because what was it he said the other day? I'm not a sack of potatoes.
Exactly.
So I don't think he likes being constantly linked with people, and maybe he's not being consulted properly during all this. He's not being kept up to. We don't really know, but he must have said that for some reason.
Yeah, he said that he hadn't been explained the reasons for basically being on the bench for half the season. And last season he had a great season. He said he's still in the form of his life. He's fitter than ever, and he just doesn't understand the situation. Basically, Valverde left, Setien's come in, and they've obviously not had that communication or that conversation about his place on the bench. And yeah, he's still a very, very good player. So I wouldn't be surprised if he went this summer. He deserves to be playing, and he's coming into the twilight of his career as well. So he want to be playing as much football as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Martin Odegaard says that he would quite fancy another wee while at Sociedad. What do you know about this?
Yeah, it came out of a Basque paper on Monday evening. A local journalist who's linked to Real Sociedad said that Odegaard has gone back to Madrid and said, listen, I'm happy to stay here and complete my second season on this loan deal, because he originally signed for 2 years, and the first year's gone so well. He's been one of the best players in the league. He's been so good. So basically, reports were coming out in Madrid that he was ready to step up, and that Zidane would have him come in and maybe take over from Modric, who's 34 now and just doesn't have the legs that he once had. Cruz is getting older as well. So I think, looking at Real Sociedad's form this season, and in particular Odegaard's, he'd be definitely well capable of stepping up and slotting into that Madrid midfield. But I think for his own development, he's still only 21. I think he needs another season. Real Sociedad could still qualify for the Champions League, and he'd be playing week in, week out. This season alone, he's got 28 games under his belt, 7 goals and 8 assists from midfield. So he's had a brilliant season, and I don't think there's any rush. I think Zidane's got enough resources there as well to keep him taking over. I think he'll be pretty happy with his midfield. He trusts in the old guard there with Cruz, Modric, Casemiro, Isco. He's got plenty of options. So I think you can see Odegaard eventually going back. But I ran a poll on the Get Spanish Football News Twitter account asking the question, Martin Odegaard should Number one, return to Real Madrid, or number two, stay on for another year at Real Sociedad. And 66% of people voted stay on for another year from 600 votes. So I think across the board, it's not only Odegaard that thinks he should stay on. I think most Spanish football fans think it would be a good idea for him to get another year of football under his belt.
Yeah, and great to see another young player with such quality in that team. You know, it would be great if they could hang on to those players for at least.
He's a lovely footballer.
Yeah, absolutely, and he does so well with Oyarzabal and Isaac, and they've just got so many good players up at Sociedad. So it'd be great to see
quality
him there for another year. Yeah, so absolutely. Another good young player that we've been talking about a fair bit this season at Valencia, which it's been a very mixed season for Valencia, but Ferran Torres has been excellent this season, and he's been linked with a few teams as well. It looks like he's catching the eye of bigger teams in Europe.
Yeah, naturally enough, Real Madrid and Barcelona are linked to the player, but more seriously, I think it's been Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga, because there's talk of Jadon Sancho leaving to either Manchester United or Chelsea. He could return to England, and they're talking about Ferran Torres being the ideal player to kind of take his position. You know, he'd step in there on the right wing. Or the left wing, he's both-footed, technically very, very good. He's played for Spain under 21s, and his contract runs out in June 2021. So he only has a year left. Valencia have been trying their hardest to get him tied down for another few years. They've been trying to give him a new contract, and it just hasn't been happening. He's been at the club since he was 6, so he's local guy, loves the club, but realises his potential, and top European clubs are knocking on the door. Valencia is a top club, don't get me wrong, but bigger clubs are coming in now, and €40 million is the deal that they're currently talking about. But we don't know. That could involve Sancho leaving as well. So if Sancho doesn't go from Dortmund, maybe he'll stay put and sign a new deal. But the fact that it's taken so long, and Valencia have been basically saying, "Can you sign a new deal?" It just hasn't happened. So it's hard to know where that one's going to go, but I'm sure the speculation is going to continue.
Yeah, absolutely. From our point of view, we'd like to see him stay in Spain, because it's great to see it, and it has been such an interesting season from the point of view of seeing young players coming through.
He's like Odegaard. He's very, very easy on the eye.
He is like Odegaard, yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy watching him play. He's one of those standout players. Like, you're watching Valencia, they don't have many exceptional players. They have Dani Parejo, brilliant midfielder. But when you watch them, Ferran Torres is the player you look out for. Same with Real Sociedad, you look out for Odegaard as well. So just those kind of game changers. So I'm not surprised he's been linked with big clubs.
Absolutely. Well, so despite the lack of football, there's always talking points in La Liga.
That's it.
And in Spanish football, isn't there?
Yeah, and they've got to fill these papers every day. Mundo Deportivo, Sport in Catalonia, and then you've got Diario AS and Marca in Madrid. So every day it's the same stuff day in, day out. Players being linked here and there, but nobody knows what's going to happen. Like, you can't even fly to do your medical anymore. So we don't even know when football's going to resume. A lot of players are contracted until June 30th. And then their contracts are up, so there's probably going to be an extension for those contracts in order for players to be able to take part in their games with their teams for the season, maybe ending in July or August. So we don't know, and that could have an effect on transfers down the line as well. Plus, clubs are hit financially as well, so a lot of clubs won't have the money. The revenue isn't coming in from gate receipts.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and another big loss that they've got to take into consideration. So, we'll see what happens. All that we can do is try and keep up with the news, try and keep people informed, and try and keep ourselves informed. So yeah, after it's good to be back after that 1 month hiatus. It was a shame. I'm missing Spain,
and I'm missing yourself and the podcast. So it's good to be back.
Good to be back. Well, that brings us to the end of today's podcast. Thank you very much for joining us on Talk Football. I hope everybody listening is doing well despite the circumstances, and we will see you again next week. Adios.
Hasta luego.